Hey traders, I'm Heinz and welcome back to another video from SIC Forex. And in this video, I will show you how to make your own set file for Grid Machine EA or Forex Robot. Grid Machine EA is available for both MT4 and MT5, but before we begin, I want to ask you to show your support for the video by hitting that like button. Also subscribe to stay up to date with future videos. Now, firstly, what is grid trading? Grid trading is when orders are placed above and below a set price, creating a grid of orders at incrementally increasing or decreasing prices. Overall, the technique seeks to capitalize on normal price volatility in an asset by placing buy and sell orders at certain regular intervals above and below predefined base prices. Now, what's the main idea behind grid trading is that you don't need to predict the direction of the market because the system is designed to make both profits during trending and range-bound markets. Now, some of the major drawbacks are the possibility of incurring large losses if the stop loss limits aren't adhered to. And there's also a bunch of complexity associated with running or closing multiple positions in a large grid. Because of this, a lot of grid trading is automated, and for that reason, we'll be focusing on the Grid Machine EA. Now, as price moves in the market, this is usually when the grid is able to profit from these moves. And because you are able to trade 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, this can really encourage high amount of profits. So our featured robot for today is the Grid Machine EA, and it uses the largest volume in the market to determine the levels for entry. After crossing the levels towards the breakdown, a market order is then open, and from then the EA builds two sides of grid orders, adapting as the market moves. Some of the advantages of the EA is that it can be highly profitable due to constant presence in the market, and the algorithm for finding the maximum volume in the market every gives it grounds for entering in a certain direction. On top of this, it's important that you need to set the number of settings and flexibility of the system, which makes it easy to backtest. Now, some of the trading recommendations include a 1,000 deposit for 0.01 volume. Now, it can be created across multiple pairs, including Forex, stocks, commodities, and even cryptocurrencies, but it's important that you need to have the appropriate settings for that specific grid. Now, some of the main settings of the EA are quite simple, and for that reason, I decided to use this as our introduction to grid trading. So what we'll be doing in this video is adjusting different parameters and seeing what effect they'll have on the end balance. On top of that, I'll be releasing a free set file which you can test on your own computer after downloading the Grid Machine for either MT4 or MT5. Now, what we read is it says a minimum of 1,000 deposit for 0.01, and the recommended symbol is the Euro USD on the H1 time frame. Now, I'll be testing the EA for a 24-month period from the 10th of January 2022 until the 10th of January 2024. And for our first example, what we'll be doing is running the bot on default. And the way that the bot determines in which direction to trade is that it uses a volume-based algorithm to determine what direction the market is moving. Now, it's important to note that on default, the bot doesn't have any drawdown protection. And what this means is that your entire account can be at risk using this EA. So throughout the video, we'll be making adjustments to the stop loss to ensure that this doesn't happen. And because of the fact that it's in the market 24/5 or 24/7 if you're using it to trade crypto, you'll notice that immediately we're already up from $1,000 to over 3,000. However, some of the things that we can see from the deposit load, which is located at the bottom of the strategy tester, is that we already see these large spikes of volume. And because of these large spikes, it can be assumed that if we were to have a stop loss or a drawdown limiter, that it would hit that drawdown. And because of the reason that people don't always understand how grids works, they don't know exactly how to set the drawdown limiter. So in this video, we'll be looking at how to set the drawdown so that it's an appropriate amount and it doesn't just constantly hit the stop loss and take you out of the market. However, with all of that said, since we started the bot in January until July, we already see that it's taken the deposit of 1,000 and 7 times or 6 times the balance up to 6,000. However, we can see the risks that are involved with grid trading if we see these large spikes in drawdown. What I mean by that is the balance is the balance amount in the account. However, these gaps between the green and blue line show us when the bot goes into drawdown. So it's important to take into consideration if you are planning on trading the default settings, which are very aggressive, is that you might stand the chance of losing the entire account. And as the bot continues to trade in both direction, placing orders according to its volume algorithm, you'll notice that it is making a lot of money. The initial deposit of 1,000 is up to 9,000 already, or a 9 times rate, or a 900% growth in just a couple of months. So starting in January until September, we've already 10 times the balance. However, this is not without its risks. Whenever you see an algorithm which is either free or for sale, it is important to take into consideration what is the possible risks of trading that specific EA. And what we'll see next happen is an unforeseen event happens in the market, and this might not necessarily be news. This can be caused by a multitude of different factors, and because we don't have a drawdown mode enabled, eventually it crashes the account. Now, even though the account hasn't been completely blown, just imagine going from a balance of over 10,000 to only 700. And because of this reason, what we are going to do next is adjust the settings so that we have the best system that can actually work live in the market. As always, it is best to first test it against a demo account so that you can have a better understanding of how the bot functions in the market. Now, the first thing that we are going to choose is our mode of drawdown. What this means is what happens when the maximum drawdown amount, and this is in the amount of the currency, gets hit. And what a lot of new grid traders do is they set a very, very small amount. And remember, this drawdown amount is for one side of the grid. It's important to view the grid as two separate sides, and that is the amount that's the maximum amount that one side of the drawdown can be hit. And even though we see that it is making us upturn, we see that it's constantly incurring losses as the market moves too quickly against it. So what we are going to do is let's fast forward to the end of the graph and we'll take a look at what is the end result of trading it with a 200 drawdown maximum balance. And here you'll see that the graph actually looks quite ugly because constantly that $200 drawdown per side is hit, and this causes these incurrent or fallbacks in the balance and equity curve. However, on the positive side, we actually ended in a profit higher than the previous amount. So the account is then safe because we are using a maximum drawdown limiter. Now, what I do recommend is to adjust the drawdown a little bit higher so that you can give it some breathing room. On top of this, some other adjustments that I like to make when I trade grids is to decrease the lot multiplier. The lot multiplier works in the fact that when the next order is placed in the grid, this is the multiplier that is used. So what I'll be doing is I'll be decreasing the maximum lot multiplier from 1.5 to 1.3. This should give us smaller lots, and you'll see from the balance and equity curve and also the deposit load that it gives a little bit more breathing room as the bot is using smaller lots. So if we take another look at the graph, making those two small adjustments, let's see what we have. And we can see from the deposit loads, which shows you the size of the different lots that is used as a percentage of the total account, you'll see that now we have a lot more of them. However, they are scaled, meaning we have a little bit more movement or breathing room for the expert advisor. However, the problem is trading on such a small drawdown limiter 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, is that you're exposing yourself to a lot of news events which can really push the drawdown to a higher level. Whenever the bot is into drawdown, you'll see that the balance, the equity curve, which is the green line, goes below the balance line. This shows us that the bot's equity and balance aren't aligned, which is typical of these grid style bots. However, by making more adjustments, we could potentially get it so that we don't incur these drawdown losses. However, we are now limiting the amount to only $480 per side. But what I see from this graph is that it will constantly have the same repeating effect, able to generate a little bit of profit before the drawdown gets out of hand. Now, the way that I like to overcome this when I trade grids is by setting specific hours of the day that the bot is allowed to trade. So the way that I'll be doing this is I'll be limiting entries to the Tokyo session. So we are going to enable the mode time option and then change the start time to 2 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the morning. This still allows the bot to open new trades between 2 and 6 a.m. or start new series of grids between those 4 hours. And I'm also going to unselect the grid panel to ensure that we have a slightly faster backtest. And immediately we'll see there's a lot fewer entries than we had when we originally ran the bot on default. However, our equity and balance curve are much closer to each other, which shows us that it is within its limits. And over the 24-month period, not a single time did one of the sides exceed the $480, and we were able to trade straight through for the whole 24 months. Now, the profit is a lot less than what we initially saw, but we were still able to double the account at a lot safer way. We've also decreased the equity drawdown to only $287.83, and by doing this, increased our profit factor to 3.10. Lastly, you'll see it's still a large quantity of trades with a total trade quantity of 718 trades during the 24-month testing period. So with that, guys, I hope that you found this video to be helpful. If you have any questions about the grid machine or how to download the set file, feel free to comment down below. And with that, guys, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time and watching this video. Until next time, happy trading. Bye.